What's up, movie fans and TV fans? How's it going? Today we're looking at the start of the Doctor Who Series 1, Doctor Who reviews on the channel. We're doing a whole lot of all the series from Series 1 up to Series 12, obviously, of New Who that started in 2005. So today we're looking at, Series 1. We're going to start off with Rose, but just, I suppose, a little backstory and context to Doctor Who is a TV show that ran from 1963 to 1989. Had, a lot of episodes and a lot of people portraying the character of the Doctor, and the whole concept of the Doctor regenerating came about because of the original Doctor, William Hartnell, who was getting ill towards the end of his tenure as a Doctor, although it wasn't known at the time, but he was getting ill towards the end, and they wanted to keep the show going because it was very successful, but they didn't want to just simply, if they recasted him and then, they didn't want to recast him with someone of a similar age because they'd have the same problem again. So they wanted to recast him with someone completely new, different age bracket, and they created the concept of regeneration, where the Doctor would change their body form, and then and as time went on, that happened, all the way through the 60s to the late 80s. When it ended in 1989 due to the people at the top of BBC not being very lenient towards the show. So and then obviously in 1996 the TV movie came out with Paul McGann, and then between 1996 and 2005 there was no Doctor Who on screen at all. There was a few, in 1993 there was a Dimensions in Time special with all the old Doctors, but again that was before the TV movie. But after the TV movie, the only other Doctor Who thing was in 1999 there was a Red Nose Day parody of Doctor Who and the generations of the 9th Doctor through to the 13th Doctor, which they, in that very 1999 parody, they predicted the 13th Doctor would be a woman. So, and considering that was written by Stephen Moffat, that kind of does say something. Stephen Moffat was a showrunner from 2010 all the way through to 2017. But yeah, like I said, obviously after, there was also the Scream of the Shauker mini sort of animated special in 2003 for the 40th anniversary of Doctor Who. But yeah, and then in 2005, Russell T Davies brought Doctor Who back into the limelight with Christopher Eccleston as the starring role, Billy Piper as the companion, and obviously, yeah, it opened up in 2005 with this episode, Rose. Now, Rose is an episode where obviously it opens the series, so it has to set a few things. Introduce the Doctor, introduce the companions. In this instance of the show, it introduced the sonic screwdriver, the TARDIS, the concept of the TARDIS being bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, all the basic things. And obviously this Doctor's catchphrase, which was the word fantastic. So it had to set those things up, and I think it did that very well. And I have to admit, it's nice to, obviously I have watched a bit of Classic Who, and most of that stuff revolves around the Doctor at the beginning and stuff, but it's nice to see that here the opening of this episode doesn't focus around the new Doctor. We don't meet him until about 10 minutes in. I want to say 10 minutes in. Maybe 5 minutes in. 10 to 5 minutes into the episode. I've currently got it in the background, but with it muted, so it doesn't copyright claim the whole thing. But yeah, roughly 5 to 10 minutes into the episode, we meet the Doctor, and that first 5 minutes is all showing the character Rose's daily, shenanigans and stuff like that. And I think, as a way to start a series like this off, a revival of the classic series, it does its job very, very well. And I think that's one of its pro points. I think Christopher Eccleston's performance in this first episode is outstanding. He's always been one of my favourite Doctors. He always will be. He's not quite my favourite. I think he's my third favourite. We'll get to who my favourite is when we get to them a little later down the line. But he's always been one that I've enjoyed watching ever since I watched his first few episodes. I think he's a very talented actor, and he can portray the Doctor as this emotional character just as well as David Tennant, or as Tennant or Smith or Capaldi or Whittaker. He can portray them with emotions just as much as the others can, and I love that. And I think, again, with this episode, there's one thing that just bugged me, but it's not too bad. It's just that the CGI has not aged particularly well at all, especially the CGI of where Mickey is taking his hands off the dustbin, and the CGI where the bottle of the cork hits the copy of Mickey's head. It's not aged very well at all. That's all I'm going to say on that. But it does, introduce us to a few characters: the Doctor, Mickey, Rose, and Rose's mum, whose name escapes me. Jackie, there you go, Jackie Tyler introduces us to those characters, and I think that's, it's the base set of characters that will follow us through a lot of Series 1. And obviously the villain here isn't too big, it's the Nestine Conscious and the Autons, who were a previous villain. So it's an interesting choice of bringing a previous villain as the first villain, but not a well-known one. So it's still that kind of, yes, we're reviving an old show, we're going to do new things, but we're also going to have some old things as well. And obviously we will find out later on one of the best episodes of this series being Dalek, which is so well crafted and obviously based off of a previous audiobook that we'll talk about when we get to it. But a lot of the episodes in Series 1 I quite enjoy. There's a lot of them, but the first two, especially the second one, it's not really my cup of tea, but I'm not going to say I hate them, because I still think there's a lot of potential in the end of the world. But watching the coming soon trailer, but I don't think it's the top of this series, but nowhere near. But there's a lot to love with Series 1, and there's a lot of to love with Christopher Eccleston as the Doctor, and I can't wait to, explore my favourite television series of all time in depth with you guys. And I've got more TV series on the works, so obviously we've already done 2 before. We've done WandaVision and Falcon and Soldier. I've got after this it'll be Loki, and then I've got Loki, Man Like Mobeen, Sherlock and Torchwood are all shows that I've got planned to do at some point. But again, some of them are longer than others. Man Like Mobeen is short, with about 4 episodes each, half an hour, so that I could get done in a day. With there's 3 series of that, so I can get that done over a weekend. But Sherlock is, while it only is there's about 4 series, and each series is 3 episodes long. Each episode is 88 minutes long, so therefore, but I very much want to go back to watch Sherlock, because I haven't seen it in a very long time. I used to love that show. And I might do this series called Atlantis as well, that I really enjoyed, but I'm getting away from the topic of this episode of Doctor Who. I think another thing I'd like to mention regarding this episode is, of course, your boy Murray Gold on composing here. He's, you know what, I'm going to get this out of the way before we get to Series 11 and 12. I prefer Segun Akinola's music to Murray Gold's for most of it. I have to admit, his soundtracks for Series 1 and 2 are absolutely top tier, and I think that's my third, because I think for me it goes Series 12, Series 11, Series 1 and 2, and then I don't know how it goes from there, but for me, I just adore the Series 1 and 2 soundtrack. I used to bang it out so much. When I had a headache one day, I remember going up to my bedroom, having Alexa on the table, this is when I had Amazon Music, just playing the Series 1 and 2 soundtrack on repeat, because I loved it. It helped me soothe myself a bit. But yeah, I have to admit, Murray Gold's music is fantastic. I think the best track that's on the album from this episode is definitely Westminster Bridge. I'm not playing that right now, but the Doctor's theme, but I don't think that's in this episode. But yeah, Westminster Bridge is from the first episode. Obviously, Cassandra, I love this entire soundtrack. I think all of it's brilliant. But as we get on, there are select tracks in other series I might use, but I'm using here the theme. But for instance, like Series 9, Series 5 and 6, to an extent, Series 7 and Series 3 definitely will have pieces that I'd love to use. Going forward. It's funny because every other series, apart from Series 1, had a soundtrack released, almost after the series finished. But Series 1 didn't, and it had its soundtrack released after Series 2. But yeah, Series 4, the specials, we'll get to that. There's a lot to go through here, and I'm very excited to bring you on this journey of showing you everything Doctor Who related that I've loved over the years. This is a show that I've been watching for years now. Obviously, I was very, very young when this series started, so I wasn't there from the beginning. I think the first episode I saw was, I remember seeing A Christmas Carol, I think the 11th Doctor, hence why I have we'll get to my opinions on the 11th Doctor, but one that I do remember very prominently was the 50th anniversary specials, and then I remember seriously getting into Doctor Who Series 8 and Series 9. I watched the hell out of that every week when they came out on TV. I remember being super into Capaldi as the Doctor and Series 8 and Series 9. And then I that's the one series that I haven't watched yet. Out of all the series of Doctor Who, there is one series I haven't watched, and I'm going to review it for this series, but it'll be the first time I'm watching it, and that's Series 10. I never watched it, and then I jumped into Series 11 and 12, so I've seen that. So I've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 11 and 12. I haven't seen 10 yet, so I can't wait to get to that. But again, like I said, I'm so happy to share this series with you, and that's my review of Rose. The review for episode 2, The End of the World, is coming up right about now. Right, so episode 2, The End of the World. Obviously, it's the second episode, so there's a lot to digest and stuff. It's never been one of my favourite episodes. Like I said, it's a weak episode in Series 1, but if you put it next to some other episodes, it's not actually that bad. I can find enjoyment in it. I think the characters, so of, I think it's Jade, the tree lady, and the steward. And just think, I've never really liked Cassandra, but the Cassandra's waltz music you're hearing in the background is a nice piece. It gives us more backstory into the Doctor himself. At the end of the episode, obviously, it's revealed that he's a Time Lord. The word Gallifrey hasn't been said yet in this series, but we do get the first use of the word Time Lord during a scene where he's running through the blades. So yeah, there's that. Then there's the mentioning of the first mentioning of, not directly saying the words the Time War, but he mentions obviously there was a war and he lost, and that's obviously the Time War, and that's a big thing going throughout this entire modern series, all the way up to now, really. I mean, I'd say now probably series, from what I remember, series 9 has a lot more mention of the Time War, but at least going up to that point and stuff. But it's a big focal point throughout this entire new series. The Time War is a concept made by, thought by Russell T Davies, and again, big ups to my man Russell T Davies for doing a fantastic job here. This episode, again, it's never been my favourite, and it's never going to be my favourite, but I still think Eccleston gives a fantastic performance. I think the opening here, and taking Rose through time and stuff to the future and stuff and the end of the world, interesting concept. It does make you think a bit, but that's okay. I think the whole concept of Cassandra trying to kill them all, it does its job, I suppose. It's the weakest villain, I think, in all of in this first series, at least, and I think Cassandra is much better later on in her episode in series 2, which is a very early episode in series 2, I believe, as well, with David Tennant, where she switches bodies with the Doctor, which is fun. But again, like I said, Christopher Eccleston's Doctor is more of, he's not grumpy per se. He can be grumpy at times, but he's a lot less. He's not the vibrant sort of up in the air sort of. I mean, to be fair, David Tennant can also be very serious, and if you fuck up with him, but I think it's more to the point where Eccleston is more the serious, not down to earth, but the serious sort of, I was in a Time War, please help me, sort of very broken Doctor. Whereas don't get me wrong, Tennant's Doctor in some cases is even more broken than Eccleston's, but he doesn't show it as much. I think after obviously this regeneration, the Ninth Doctor is directly after the Time War, so I suppose he has to struggle with trying to find ways to hide this brokenness. But obviously by the time it comes to Tennant, he's able to hide it quite well, and until obviously something happens and stuff, and he gets really annoyed. But I think Eccleston's Doctor is fantastic. And I think it's good to see the introduction of some new aliens and stuff that we see at the beginning of this episode. It would have been cool to have, say, like a Dalek or something, but I guess they were saving that for and I think I'm okay with them saving that for the Dalek episode, because that is by far one of the best episodes in Modern Who. I cannot fucking tell you how good that episode is. But like I said, it does its job. It's a fine episode. It finna do be good. The music is good, like I said. The Cassandra's Waltz piece you're hearing right now is the only piece on the score on the soundtrack from this episode. And again, it does its job. But I'd just like to think that, and as an introduction, I forgot to mention this in the review of the previous episode, but his introduction to the Ninth Doctor in episode 1 we see is actually quite well done. To be honest, I have to admit, it's very well done. And but like I said here, he used a couple of more episodes to flesh his betrayal out, but I think we get a lot more interesting use of his performance skills in the next couple of episodes. But here we don't have it on full blast, but we do get to see him use a sonic screwdriver. There's obviously a bit of emotion where he has the tear, he starts crying up about it when Jade is mentioning and stuff, and I do like to see, this is another one that's quite emotional, and definitely towards the end of the series he gets really emotional. But yeah, that's episode 2, The End of the World. So coming up right now is episode 3, The Unquiet Dead, coming at y'all right fucking now. So episode 3, The Unquiet Dead, is actually quite an enjoyable, it's our first obviously historical episode going in the past opposed to present or future, so that's something that this episode gives us. It does give us the introduction of I can't remember the actress's name, but she plays the maid in this episode, and she'll go on to play the main character, one of the main characters in Torchwood a little bit later on down the line. But yeah, I think the story that's being told here with Charles Dickens, it's the first obviously in the new series that we see of a historical figure in, so it's quite an important episode, it is, because it sets up how that format's going to go forward. Instead of it, obviously in Classic Who they played out historical events perfectly by the number sort of thing, but in the new series they played historical events with little twists to them, that alien stuff, blah blah blah, some things which works here I think, but it doesn't it opens the door to more possibilities, and I think this episode as a whole, The Unquiet Dead, is actually rather enjoyable. I like the setting, and to see Charles Dickens learn certain things and stuff. It's really quite interesting, I think. The character and the villain being the girl, by far did one of the least imaginative villains the series has ever had, but that doesn't really bother me per se. I think it just leaves to the fact that this is, it's a story that's being told, and that's fun. But yeah, I have to admit, this, I think, again, The Unquiet Dead as an episode, it does its job. I like to see the characters all interact quite well with each other, and you do get to hear the Ninth Doctor say, "Just shut up," and it's a very funny meme. It's a very funny meme. Obviously, the dress sense is done the way it's supposed to be done. I think. Obviously, set-wise, there isn't too much to it. There's obviously the theatre, and then there's the house, and that's pretty much it. But the ending's quite nice, and the character that called Gwyneth, I think she's a lovely character, quite nice and interesting to see that sort of thing, devolve into her and that sort of thing. And I think it's fantastic. It's an interesting first 3 episodes of the series. Rose is by far the weakest. The Unquiet Dead is probably my favourite of the 3 we've seen so far. I think there's a lot of nice bits to unravel. The music is once again on top form by your boy Murray Gold. I have to admit, it's always fantastic to see that. But yeah, again, like I said, it's a very well done episode, a very well thought out episode, I have to admit. At the end of the day, it's an episode, and it does its job. 45 minutes worth of entertaining telly. It gave me sort of the almost blast of nostalgia for stuff like Newsround and CBBC and all that sort of stuff, so that's nice. Again, here, some of the CGI has aged slightly better than the other CGI in previous episodes, but I still don't think it's the best. Obviously, Season 1 and its CGI is not the best. It's not aged that well at all. But yeah, that's my review of Episode 3, The Unquiet Dead. Obviously, next up is our first 2-parter, which is the Aliens of London World War 3, I believe, which, is one of my favourite 2-parters, and we'll just go into that nice as movie. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking this long into the video, because this is already getting past 15 minutes at this point. But yeah, episode 4, the Aliens of London, coming up right now. Right, so episode 4, Aliens of London. Now, obviously, it's an episode that starts off very much with an interesting plot point, I think, that works really well in its favour, and that's that obviously Rose has been missing not for 12 hours, but for 12 months, which is an interesting way to start the episode off, and I think it does, at that level of what happens if he does get it wrong. He can do things very wrong, and it's good to see that sort of thing explored this early in the series. And don't get me wrong, it's fantastic to see, But as for the rest of the episode, it definitely gives Chris Eccleston a lot more time to shine, and this is where the series is getting a bit more, where he really gets to show how good of an actor he is. There's a bit more further on other episodes, specifically Dalek is an episode I like to point out with how much it shines. His performance shines through. But here, I think he does give a cracking performance. There's lovely parts. The crash, the CGI on the crash has not aged too well once again. But and also some of the CGI involving the Slovene, but that's more so in the episode World War 3, where that doesn't age too well. But here, there isn't too much that hasn't aged too well, particularly. I think it's just them getting out the bodysuits and the crash that has not aged particularly well. But other than that, it is pretty fine, to be honest, and I give them that credit for that. Most of it's aged pretty well, and I can't tell you that it's not really, it's a very interesting episode to see Downing Street and stuff like that in the way it is and portrayed, and I think once again it does lend itself to being very, very entertaining. For this is where I think this is our first 2-part of this new series of the series, and that obviously lends itself to being left on a cliffhanger at the end. And there's been a few 2-parters. I don't think there's ever been a 3. Might have been. I'm not on top of my head, but there's a lot of 2-parters throughout the whole entire series. Obviously, 1 all the way through to 12 series and stuff like that. This is our first 2-parter, and I have to admit it's a cracking 2-parter to start off with, and I do think it's brilliant. But I think the weak points are, like I said, CGI has not aged too well. Some parts of it have aged better than others. The pig thing is a bit weird, but I mean, what can I say? It is what it is. I think, like I said, it's a solid episode, very entertaining and enjoyable, and it's good to see London. It's almost time captured London in a sense, 2005 London, which I think is really cool to see. But yeah, obviously by this point, we already by this point the general public in 2005 the general public already knew that Eccleston had stepped down from the role of Doctor Who already, which really sort of left a sore stain, really, on the series as a whole. But all of these episodes have this very glossy look to them that obviously can only happen in the early 2000s and stuff like that. And we get to see a lot more of Rose's mum in this episode, and she does things. And obviously, she's not convinced the Doctor at this point. She does eventually learn to trust the Doctor, and that Rose will always be safe with him. But in this episode, she's very cautious of him, obviously. And there's the whole sort of stereotype that obviously the two of them met online, and he's like 45 and she's like 20 or something. You know, but that happens a lot in these kind of things, and it's great to see them work on that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a fantastic episode. What can I say? It definitely adds those layers to the series. It's a great start to the two-parter, and I think the concept of them being in skin suits and farting brings some light comedy to this episode, which is needed. I think it's definitely pushed too hard, and the fart jokes are way too much in these two episodes. I think they could have been toned down a little bit. It does distract you a bit from the story being told when there's a fart joke every 10 seconds. And it's not even like there's a funny one-liner after it. It's just them farting for at least 30 seconds in several parts, and that's not really the most enjoyable thing. But yeah, that's been episode 4, Aliens of London. Coming up right now, Into Your Face, is episode 5, World War 3. But yeah, that's coming up right about now. Right, so, episode 5... World War 3. I'm getting the two mixed up. World War 3. Now, again, like I said, I forgot to mention in the previous episode, the recording, that this is the first episode of the series that we see the introduction of quite an interesting character, or a popular character, a very meme-worthy character, Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North in this episode, and in a few episodes' time, Harriet Jones Prime Minister, which is a big meme in the Doctor Who universe. But this episode is the thrilling conclusion, obviously, to the previous episode, and it starts to throw around some principles of the whole series, like, is Rose safe? It's the first time we see, actually it's the second time we hear the mentioning of the words bad wolf. The first time was in The Unquiet Dead, where Gwyneth says the big bad wolf, but in this episode someone graffitis the word bad wolf on the TARDIS. And obviously, as we go on to the rest of the series and towards the end of it, you'll know that what an important meaning that phrase means to the rest of the series. But like I mentioned previously, it's an interesting conclusion with the Slovene from Raxacor for Coliformia, so I can't say it, but that's the planet they're from, and the Doctor says that shit. But I think his performance definitely shines through here as well to an extent. But I think it's the next episode, Dalek, where I'll really get into depth about how that episode in specifically really demonstrates how much of a very talented actor Christopher Eccleston is. I think that's the first episode of the series that really pushes his talents to the limits. He's been very good so far in episodes, but it's good to see the effects here of you know, Mickey and stuff. And Mickey was obviously suspected of killing Rose because she was missing for so long. But yeah, it's just it fleshes out that story, finishes that story off quite well. Again, the music by Murray Gold is a top-notch, for hearing the track Slovene. I just thought of this while I was watching the episode. Obviously, I've used several different tracks across this entire series, but from this point onwards, I'm going to be using the track Slovene from the Series 1 soundtrack, and the track Doomsday for when I get to Series 2, but that's just in a while, because Series 1 and 2 are the same soundtrack. And then, but for the opening episode, the opening review for each series, so this series is Rose, the next series is New Earth, that will have the Doctor Who theme. The opening and closing episodes of each series will have the Doctor Who theme playing over their review. and then everything in between will have the single song for Series 3. Again, you'll have the Doctor Who theme from Series 1 and 2 playing over it, and then there'll be, I think it's The Master Van Glorious will play through most of the episodes, the reviews for most of those episodes, and then the last episode will have the Doctor Who theme again. Series 4 will have the Doctor Who theme playing on the first episode from Series 4, then I think it's A Noble Girl About Town, something like that from Series 4, and then Doctor Who in the end, and the specials as well. The specials for Series 4, because it's a separate soundtrack, I'm going to do a separate review for each of the specials, so that's going to be quite an in-depth long one. But yeah, back to World War 3. It concludes the tale quite well, I have to admit. I think it's good to see the Doctor unravel the mystery first. Again, like I said, there is a specific scene in this episode where the CGI does not age particularly well at all, and that's the scene where the Savine is seen running through the corridor, and the CGI there has not aged well at all. That's what I'm going to say on that. But I think the Savine costumes are actually really well done, but when they're CGI, they look shit, but the costumes are actually really well done. There are actually real people in the costumes with the voiceover being done and stuff. But yeah, it's nice to see everything from that last episode resolved. I think it's an action-packed two-parter that's a lot of fun, and a lot of mystery behind it as well. And I think, again, it's just a really enjoyable episode. And to see the end where, in the final few scenes before the end, when the House of Parliament, 10 Downing Street's about to be blown up, and the Doctor's really looking serious. It's like, I can do this, but I can't guarantee the safety of your daughter. And he says it to Rose's mum, and he really looks like he doesn't know what to do, and contemplating it and stuff like that. And then Rose steps in and is like, you know what, just do it and stuff. And that's nice to see. That's him, trying to use his talents to the most with what the script has given him so far, which isn't giving him enough to really stretch his legs. I mean, there's a few scenes in the previous episodes where it has, but he's obviously the Doctor that's very straight up with you, and he will just say it as it is to your face, and he's got no problem with doing that. And I think that's what makes him quite an enjoyable Doctor, because he can be very funny and very light-hearted, but he can also be very straight up to your face. Like, a good example of that is in the Unquiet Dead, where he literally just tells Charles Dickens to shut up, quote unquote. But yeah, like I said, this episode's lots of fun. It's very enjoyable. Like I said, it's a nice conclusion to the previous episode and all that. And I think the use of the vinegar and stuff is really fun. I think Harriet Jones is a very interesting character, as we'll see her go as we go on. But yeah, that's been episode 5. Stay tuned for episode 6, one of my absolute favourites in this series, if not my favourite in this series. Episode 6, Dalek review, coming up right now. Right, so episode 6, Dalek. Now this one, I have to admit, out of all the episodes in series 1, Dalek is without a doubt my personal favourite, and that's because I think this is the episode one of the episodes where Christopher Eccleston shines the most as the Doctor, and his incredible performance and skills are shown off here in its fullest. He gives an emotional and a very emotional performance in parts, but I think this is definitely his best episode as the Doctor. He's exploring himself in a sense. He's exploring things that you should never have had to experience again and stuff, and it's well written, it's well done. It's obviously inspired by one of the Big Finish audiobooks they did with the Sixth Doctor a while back, and I think it was called Jubilee. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was. But yeah, I mean, it was absolutely fantastic. 9. But like I said, it's a great episode. Henry Van Staten is a bit of an annoying piece of shit. It's fantastic to see the Daleks back in this series, and I have to admit, the way they were brought back here was really well done. I think I prefer it to have been brought back like this with a single Dalek in a story, opposed to having multiple. And I think that's what really gives the story its legs, that it doesn't really go outside of the vault ever that much. You just stay inside this one building, but going up and down the stairs and stuff. And I think that's what really does add that level to it. It's fantastic, and I think it's literally one of the best episodes of the whole series. I think generally it's really the top quality episode of series 1, in my opinion. It's absolutely fantastic, and it just really does show Christopher Eccleston as a Doctor at his highest point, and I think that's brilliant. And like I said, I think Henry Van Staten is a big fucking piece of shit. I don't like him, but Adam is an interesting character who we'll get to know if he's good or bad a bit into the next episode. And the next one's quite fun as well. But yeah, this is episode 6, Dalek. I think, again, it's a fun series. Series 1 is a very interesting series for me. But like I said, I think it's really enjoyable. It's great fun, and I think here there is actually barely any moments where the CGI has not aged too well, and I think that's a really good thing. But there is, the music's really good here as well. I think despite the fact there is no music from this episode on the score, I think the music is still really good here. And that's credit to Marigold being as good as Marigold actually is. But yeah, this, episode 6, Dalek, is without a doubt the best episode of Series 1. Eccleston's best episode as the Doctor, if you ask me. One of the episodes where he gives his best performance. We don't see Mickey in this episode, we don't see Jackie in this episode. It's all focused on them in this museum, and I like that. And it's not set too far in the future, it's set a couple of years in the future in 2012, which nowadays we know is quite well back in the past actually. Nearly 10 years ago. But yeah, that's episode 6, Dalek. I think it's a fantastic episode. Nicholas Briggs as the voice of the Daleks is fantastic. But yeah, that's my review of episode 6. Coming up right now, episode 7. Name I've forgotten. Episode. I believe episode 7, The Long Game. And then we got, so with The Long Game, I'll be exactly halfway through Series 1. Like I said, I've not got any dates for this stuff. It's going to just go up as soon as I've wrapped it, and I'm going to just work on it constantly and stuff. It's a big project for me, and it won't be done for a very long time yet. So I can't wait to. It's so much to go through, but yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video so far. I would really appreciate smashing a like and a subscribe, especially on this video of all videos, because these are going to be so long and it's going to be so worth it at the end. But because Doctor Who is my favourite TV show of all time, period, and to be able to talk about it like this is fantastic, and share my thoughts and feelings with how much I think Christopher Eccleston is an underrated Doctor, and how much I think Dalek is one of the best episodes in the series, and that is absolutely fantastic. So thank you guys for sticking it out this far into the video. And yeah, episode 7, The Long Game review, coming up right about now. So, episode 7, The Long Game. It's another episode without Mickey, or without what the fuck is her name? What the fuck? And Jackie, that's it. Another episode without Mickey or Jackie, but we do have Adam here as a companion instead of as the companion, who gets a info spike in his big brain head, and the Doctor basically tells him to fuck off by the end. Not literally, but basically he says, "You can't travel with me because you're an idiot," and he leaves him on Earth with the chip in his head. But I think this episode actually is quite fun, and I think the concept of someone being waiting for above is interesting, and obviously there's obviously the satellite's going to get called back to in a future episode and stuff, but I think the mighty Jagrafess is an interesting villain. He's definitely not, I say there's a lot of villains in the series that aren't really villains, they're just there, and I think this is another one of those very much that's just, well, there, and I think that's not really a bad thing. But at the end of the day, I also think that it's set up quite well, structured quite well, and scored quite well. Again, Rose and Nine have a great chemistry with them. Adam's a bit of an idiot. It's good to see sort of like these other side characters like the two ladies who get involved and stuff, and actually this is interesting. This is the first episode where an actor that I know from outside of Doctor Who is in Doctor Who, and that is your boy Simon Pegg as the editor, and I think he does a fantastic performance in this episode. He's obviously, his face has been painted a bit more paler to look for the role, and he's also obviously got a nice small beard and moustache and stuff, which is really cool. I think he knocks it out of the park here with his performance. But yeah, again, everyone here does fantastic jobs performing here. I think genuinely they're all very talented people, and I can't wait to see where the series goes. Like I said, we're now halfway through, and this episode is, and this review is already half an hour long. I've just literally checked on the software I'm editing it on. This is now half an hour long without this segment being put in, so this is going to be very, very long. Boys, it's going to be very, very long. But yeah, The Long Game is an interesting episode. It sort of builds itself quite well to see what's going on at the top, but then it also is one of those episodes where we know a little bit more than the Doctor does at points, and it's unlike the movie Thunderball where that's we know too much. Here we know just the right amount to help the plot move along in a nice paceful way, and I think that's fantastic, absolutely fantastic, to quote Mr. Doctor over here. But yeah, I think the two ladies here, the Suki and what's her face is yeah. But yeah, I think they're very well done. I think everyone's very well acted here. Music is at its top of its game as well, and I think, you know, it's a very fun episode, and a creative episode as well, because again, like I said, it all takes place in the one place, which is fun. I cannot wait. Next episode, episode 8, is Father's Day. One of my favourite was with some really great score by Murray Gold in Father's Day. But yeah, yeah, that's episode 6. My review for episode 7, Father's Day, is coming up right about now. Right, so episode 7, Father's Day. It's a very emotional episode, I'm not gonna lie. It's a very touching episode. I think it's one of the better episodes for Rose as a character in particular, and I think that really flows through. Billie Piper's performance really does hit its top notch in this episode. And Christopher Eccleston gives a great performance, but he's almost sort of like, unlike most of the other episodes where he's the main character, or one of the main characters, he's more of a side character here than he is in any of the other episodes, and I like to see him, you know, sidelines and stuff. And I think, again, scoring by Murray Gold here is absolutely fantastic, and I think, like I said, the entire episode is just so well done, and like the story is fantastic. And I think, you know, it's one of the more interesting stories of them, of, you know, what if Rose could save her father and stuff. I think that's really cool storytelling, and I like it for that exact reason. But I also think that, you know, on top of that, it's structural, and pace is actually very, very good too. But yeah, I think, again, like I said, it's probably one of the more emotional episodes here in this. But I think at the same time, it also leaves room for interpretation in some regards, and also, you know, it's nice to see, you know, that kind of character being pushed forth and developed forth a bit. I suppose Rose is getting a lot of character development in this specific episode, and that's brilliant to see, and I love that. But, you know, it's a very well structured and formed episode. I think it's really entertaining, but it's also an emotional episode. I think the guy playing Rose's dad does a really good job. I really love the scene where he figures it out that you know, obviously that she is Rose, his daughter and stuff. I love that scene. It's so emotional, so well played, but both actors do a fantastic job of doing that scene. I think it's brilliant. But yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic scene. It's a fantastic episode as a whole, and I think there's a lot you can learn from it and add to it and stuff. And I feel like, you know, it's definitely one of the highlights of this series, if you ask me. I think the music here is fantastic. But like I said, I think Rose is really the main character here, and the Doctor is just a backseat sort of almost narrator in a sense in this episode, and I quite like that. Like I said, it's, you know, it's a very fun episode. It has some good tracks on the score, on the soundtrack. I think it really does allow Billie Piper in particular to stretch her legs a bit. You know, there was a lot of doubts when she was casted in the revival, and I think this episode in particular, I think, really makes the haters be like, oh, she's not actually that bad, because she's not actually that bad. She's actually quite a talented actress, and obviously nowadays she's obviously blown up and stuff. And I say blown up, you know what I mean? She's in much more stuff nowadays. But this is sort of, you know, one of her early TV roles, I think. I'm not 100% sure, don't quite remember that. But like I said, this episode's fantastic. The whole TV series as a whole is my favourite TV show of all time, and it gets much more fun as we go on. And I feel like I'm going to find it a lot more difficult to review this series as we go on, but I will try my best. Yeah, it's a fantastic episode, like I said, and yeah, it's just fantastic. To quote Nine himself. But yeah, that's my review of episode 7, Father's Day, my favourite episode of the series. And now so what we've got left is we've got two-parters and then a single episode, and then a single part episode. We've got the next two-parters, The Doctor Dances, uh, the Empty Child, the Doctor Dances, which is written by future showrunner Stephen Moffat. And then followed by that, we've got Boomtown, which is the return of the Slovene, which is an interesting episode. But yeah, for the remaining episodes of the series, from the next episode onwards, we will finally get to meet one of my favourite characters in the whole series. I won't tell you who he is until the next one starts. But we get to see him all the way through to the end of this series, and he pops up again in a couple of series and gets his own TV spin-off. And recently returned to the series in 2 episodes, in 2 series, 12 episodes. So obviously in the Christmas special. I'm sure you can guess who he is and who I'm talking about from those little teasers alone. But yeah, obviously we've got the Doctor Dances, the Empty Child, the Doctor Dances, Boomtown, and then we have Bad Wolf. Bad Wolf? It's definitely not called Bad Wolf. So it definitely is called Bad Wolf. So just to recap, what we've got left is the Empty Child, the Doctor Dances, Boomtown, Bad Wolf, the Parting of the Ways, and then the Christmas special that is the Christmas Invasion, to have Tennant as his first episode. So yeah, we're nearly done with the Christopher Eccleston era. Now that's, you know, an easy thing to say because it's a one single series thing. But yeah, my review for episode 9, The Empty Child, coming up right about now. Right, so episode 9, I believe it's The Empty Child. Don't quote me on that. I believe it's The Empty Child, yeah. Yeah. Series 1, Episode 9, The Empty Child. It's actually the first episode in the series to be written by future series showrunner Stephen Moffat. And I think he was definitely on board with Doctor Who from the very beginning of the revival, and I think Russell T Davies always wanted him to be the successor to him, which is what he turned out to be. But this is the first episode he wrote for New Who, and I think it clearly shows, because it's very well written. Obviously it's the 2-parter, The Empty Child, The Doctor Dances. It's very well written, it's very enjoyable, and I think it also gives us an introduction, as I mentioned in the previous episode, which I accidentally said episode 7 at the beginning of it when it's actually episode 8. So I'm not going to edit that out, but there's just a reminder that the last episode was actually episode 8. But yeah, it's a fantastic episode. I do love it dearly. I think it also gives us an introduction to who is one of the characters who could quite possibly be the best secondary character in all of New Who, and that is your boy Captain Jack Harkness, portrayed by John Barrowman. Again, he's fantastic here. I think he's definitely better in the subsequent episodes after this one. But as an introduction, I suppose it's actually a bit rocky because he comes out of a con man. But I'm like, I think he sort of has the style and the suave and the eccentricity that Jack has from time to time, but I don't think it's quite there yet. In Boomtown and in Parting of the Ways 2-parter, Bad Wolf, Parting of the Ways, he's definitely much better there. But here he's actually on top form. I think Captain Jack's one of my favourite characters. The story is very well done. But yeah, I just think it's a fantastic story, and I think it's brilliant. But yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's it's a fantastic story. It's so well written. It's quite funny at points as well. But yeah, it's just a very interesting world. I like the time setting of World War II. It's something that I've obviously studied a bit as I studied history, so it's quite easy to grasp my hands around and stuff like that. But yeah, it's an enjoyable concept, and I think it's a very fun episode. Again, it's very well written by Stephen Moffat, and it's actually an interesting story as to why they're called Chula, because that was the name of the restaurant that they all went to once they celebrated the series revival being very well. And the next day, Stephen Moffat had to write the script for this episode, and he remembered the restaurant that he went to with the gang was called Chula, so that's what they're called. But yeah, that's my review of episode 9. The Empty Child. Again, it's a fantastic 2-part and it's very well written. But yeah, thank you guys for sticking it this far in the video. This is going to be a way 40-minute or so video, so I appreciate you sticking this far in. But yeah, coming up now is my review of episode 10, The Doctor Dances, coming at y'all right fucking now. Right, so episode 10, The Doctor Dances. Again, it obviously continues from the previous episode, but I think personally I prefer The Doctor Dances to The Empty Child, because I feel like, I don't know, there's just more fun and action and also interesting story developments in this one, such as, you know, the Tula ship and stuff, and more we learn about that is more, it interests me a bit more here. I think that's fun, and to learn the Captain Jack's mistake, which was, you know, wasn't that big of a mistake, but in the eyes of the Doctor, I mean, it kind of was a big mistake, but you know what I mean. In the eyes of the Doctor, it was triple the size of a mistake it once was. But you know, I think that this episode in particular is lots of fun. I think it definitely builds on what the previous one does. It's definitely very well written, much like previous episode, and I don't blame that, because it's written by your boy Stephen Moffat, so yeah, obviously it can be very well written because Stephen Moffat is awesome. But yeah, I think it's just a very fun, well-rounded episode. I think I love the way it ends with Captain Jack being saved by them and the Doctor dancing and stuff like that. It's brilliant. It's just absolutely fantastic the way that ends like that. But yeah, I just have to think that I think it's fantastic. I generally think it's a fantastically fun episode. It's great, you know, two-parter. I love, my favourite part of this episode is the ending where the Doctor's like, everybody lives. I love that so much. It's so cool and it's so fun, and I love seeing the Doctor being that happy about everyone surviving. I think that's fantastic. And you know, I think this, again, it is brilliant. It's a very, that's one of my favourite parts of the episode. I think Nancy as a character is very interesting in it, and that ending is very heartfelt and emotional in both the bit by the ship and also the bit by the Tula ship, and also the bit inside Captain Jack's ship. Very emotional bits, which is fun. Well, it's fun to see, you know, them treading on emotional beats this early on in the series. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a fantastic two-parter, and obviously we've got Boomtown up next. But it's fantastic. You know, we're coming to the end of series 1. So if you're still watching this video this far in, big ups to you. Big thank yous for sticking all the way through in this video of me talking a bunch of bullshit for nearly an hour at this point. Not gonna lie. But like I said, I can talk for ages about Doctor Who because it's my favourite TV show on Earth. So, you know, and this is only the first series and it's over an hour long. So I'm excited to see. It won't be over an hour. It'll probably be about 40 to 50 minutes. But I'm excited to see where I take this series going forward. And I'm, you know, happy that I built up the bit, because I'm talking in reviews a while ago and on streams and stuff. But I would never think about even remotely doing this, you know. Because it would be too much effort, and now here I am, sat, a couple months later, reviewing my favourite TV show on Earth, and I can't wait to do more TV shows. I've got Harley Quinn and Doom Patrol 2 that are really on my agenda, as well as Man Like Mobeen and Sherlock. Those are the TV shows that I want to have reviewed by the end of 2021. There's a lot of movies as well. I've got so many movies on the back catalogue. Movies that I haven't seen before, movies that I have seen before, all that lovely stuff. I want to review a lot of stuff. I've got a lot of new films in the collections that I want to review. But yeah, I should probably be saying this at the end of the thingy review. But yeah, I just appreciate anyone sticking around this long into the video, and allowing me to be able to talk about my favourite TV show on Earth for as long as I have. But yeah, coming up right now is the review of episode 11, Boomtown, coming at y'all right fucking now. Right, so episode 11, Boomtown, the return of the Slovene, or more prominently, a single Slovene called Blonde Fell Fox, blah 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 blah, something Slovene, hiding as Margaret Blaine. It's an interesting episode because once again, there's no Jackie, but there is a Mickey, so that's fun. And I think that explores Rose and Mickey's relationship quite well here. There's scenes where you're taken out of the main story to focus on them two, and I think that's really well done, and I think that's brilliant to see. I think as a whole the story is actually quite fun, and to see the Doctor, you know, get the first hints of the bad wolf thing this late into the series, it is good. But obviously he shrugs it off. In the next set of episodes we'll realise that. We're also coming to the end of the series, so once we've gone through the final review, which will be the Christmas special 2005, which I can't remember the name of, but I'll do my conclusion at that point, and then, you know, I'm recording this on the 1st of July, which is when the review will be going up. All the other ones are recorded over the previous 2 days, so the 30th and 29th of July, and even days before that. So this has taken me upwards of nearly a week or so to upload to get this done. So, and this is series 1, and we'll get longer as we go on. But yeah, like I said, I think Boomtown is an episode that, you know, it does its job. It's nice to see the Savine not kill someone, but then obviously the Doctor then completely debunks that theory later on by saying, oh, she only kills one. She doesn't kill the person here because to justify her killing millions, she doesn't kill one person every now and then. And I think that's very, very, very true, which is good to see. You know, the morals of the Doctor coming through like that and stuff. But he does question things in this episode. I think, like I said, it's very well structured and written. At the end of the day, it's great to see Captain Jack here, and he's really funny here as well, and he's funny in the finale as well, and it's cool to see all that stuff. And as of now, he's not yet immortal, but he will be by the end of the next 2 episodes. But yeah, it's a fun episode, well written, well done. It's highly enjoyable, and I have to admit, having the Savine back is fun. Like I said, seeing the consequences of certain events is fun. Again, the Savines, the Slithines, or the Slickeens, as Jackie calls them, their body outfits are actually really well done, so I give them credit for that. But yeah, like I said, overall it's a well written and edited episode. I think I like the scene where they keep teleporting her back to where she was. Like, she teleports away, Doc teleports him back, and it's nice to see Mickey, Rose, Jack and the Doctor working as a team, even if it's for only one scene. You can't deny how awesome that TARDIS team is, but you know, the Doctor, you know. But yeah, like I said, fantastic episode, really fun and really well done. And I gotta admit, I think that at the end of the day, it feels like a nice single episode that to put in between the 2-parter that was the Doctor Dances, the Empty Child, the Doctor Dances, and then the next 2-parter, which is Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways. So but yeah, like I said, the Revival series has been fantastic so far. Watching, you know, going back and watching it again, I've seen it a fair few times, and I do yeah, I do love it. So, but don't ask me to review Classic Who, because that's not going to happen in a million years. I struggle just to talk about this stuff, so there's a lot less to talk about when it comes to Classic Who, and a lot more to digest at the end of the day. So I couldn't bring myself to do that. Plus, I've not got a way to watch Royal Classic Who because I got rid of BritBox. But yeah, if you're interested in watching Classic Who, all of Classic Who from 1963 all the way through to 1989, and the TV movie is on the service BritBox in the UK, which is the only reason why I ever got that service, was to watch all of Classic Who. And actually, the first movie I watched in 2021 was Doctor Who, the TV movie. So there you go. I might review that someday if I get a Blu-ray copy of it and that. But yeah, like I said, Boomtown, it's fun. It's great to see him bounce off of Eccleston, bounce off of John Barrowman and Rose, and the scene in the shop, in the food place they're eating in, is quite funny as well. But yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic episode, so well done. And yeah, that brings us to the end of Boomtown and the starting of episode 12, Bad Wolf. So episode 12, Bad Wolf review, coming up right about now. Right, so episode 12, Bad Wolf, is actually quite I do love this finale. I think the twist of sort of, at the time, game shows that were very popular like Big Brother and The Weakest Link. Obviously The Weakest Link has been you know, taken out from time, doesn't exist anymore, but it's almost time captured here in this episode. That's what I love about it, to see stuff like Big Brother and The Weakest Link, you know, almost parodied in a sense in this way, but with more deadly twist. It's quite, again, like I said, this one's written by Russell T Davies, so it's going to be well written. I think it does have that tension to a bit where the dog realises that it's all these game shows, but with a deadly twist and stuff. And I think obviously it goes that saying that the best scene in this entire episode is definitely the ending, where he figures out who the Masters are. I'm not going to say who they are. That's more important in the next episode than it is in this one. But when he figures that out, and the emotional, almost mini speech he gives to them is fantastic. And again, like I said, it's these 2 episodes that also give him very much ability to show off his acting talents, because he is fucking fantastic as a Doctor, and these 2 episodes give him that time to do it. And I think it's brilliant that that he shows himself off like that. And I think, you know, he's very talented, and like I said, these 2 episodes in specific show how talented the guy is. I mean, for God's sake, he's brilliant. He's obviously he's a very incredibly talented actor, so that means that obviously putting that on screen is easy to do it, but he needs scenes that allow him to stretch those muscles out, and a lot of the scenes in these episodes and in Dalek as well allow him to push that to a whole new level, and that's wonderful. And I think Captain Jack's scenes here are quite funny as well. Rose game ends and then is non-game ended, so that's fun. But I think, like I said, as a concept and as a whole, it's a very brilliant episode, and you can really tell that I am struggling to talk about this series, and we're only here already, which is a big problem. But the music is fantastic here by Murray Gold, as always. The series 1 and 2 soundtracks are fucking fantastic, and I can't deny that. But it's a shame that series 1 and 2 are bundled into one album with 31 tracks, when that would essentially cover series 1 on its own. So not every single episode has a track here. There's a lot of episodes that have tracks missing, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think it's fantastic that to parry these TV shows. I think it's a really good, really well done idea, and I think it does add that level to the show that has been missing for a while. Some nice self-oofing at the BBC, which is fun. But yeah, I think it promotes a good concept, and like I said, the ending is fantastic, and I can't again finish it off with the parting of the ways. But this episode here it's a very well structured one, and it's an interesting take on what if someone was ruling over all of mankind and stuff. And I think it's cool to see that, in effect, what happened in the long game, where he thought he fixed history right, he essentially changed it again and pushed it further back. There's a scene where Linda with a Y tells him about 100 years back all of this stuff changed and stuff, and which is, you know, quite an interesting concept, and I think that's quite a cool thing to say, that he actually almost did something wrong. And I think, you know, it's a fantastic episode that does its job, and at the end of the day, it's brilliant. So yeah, that's my review of episode 12, Bad Wolf. So again, like I said, the whole Bad Wolf thing comes full circle in the parting of the ways, but it is briefly mentioned here. Obviously, we're coming to the very end of the series. We have 2 episodes left: the Parting of the Ways and the Christmas Invasion. After I do the Christmas Invasion, I think I will do a little just conclusion as well, an extra 5 minutes in conclusion and stuff. But yeah. If you are this far in the video, I really appreciate it, because this is over an hour long. So, like I said, thank you for coming. Being this far in the video is tremendously. No one's ever been this far on one of my videos before. So, if you are here listening to this at this point in the video, thank you so much. You a real one. Not that anyone is, but you know, if you are, you do be a real one. If you just skip forward in the timeline, fuck you. But if you've actually sat through the whole hour-long episode, you the real one. But yeah, coming up right now, my review of episode 13, Parting of the Ways, coming at y'all right about now. Right, so episode 13, The Parting of the Ways, the Ninth Doctor's final episode in this fantastic first series, the culmination of everything preceding it, the culmination of the last 12 episodes, the culmination of the Ninth Doctor as a whole, and really one of the more powerful episodes, if you ask me. The entire thing is one of Eccleston's best, if you ask me. It's really up there. I mean, the performance towards the end and that final scene, I have to admit, I think one of the best lines that he's ever given is when he says, "And you know what? So was I," after he says that Rose is fantastic, and he says, "And you know what? So was I." And I think I love that, because the music and him saying it, and it's so perfectly timed, and I love that. And that's probably one of the more outstanding moments with the Ninth Doctor, other than say that almost the whole of the Dalek. Now obviously this episode continues directly after the events of the previous episode, Bad Wolf, and it almost ties all loose ends up and stuff. It's a very emotional episode, if you ask me. Big old climax where almost everyone who's on that ship dies. Jack game ends, then doesn't game end, but we'll get into that. He saves the Daleks, but it's a big old emotional thing where he sends Rose home before, and obviously he's quite upset about it, but he has to send Rose home because he knows that everyone on that thing will die. So that's what he does. He sends Rose home, and yeah, But like I said, he sends Rose home, and it's very emotional and stuff. And then you know, it's a very emotional staked episode. It's to see the Emperor Dalek, to see him almost break down in front of the Daleks to an extent as well, and to sort of really, it lets him stretch his legs to an extent. And I love to see him in his final episode still being the Doctor that he is, the one who tells it straight up to you. Really, that's what I see him as, the one that's straight up to your face. If he doesn't like what you're doing, he'll tell you to shut up. Not like Tennant. It's not like Tennant is not like that. David Tennant, he is like that, but I think this guy's more like that than any of the other Doctors before him or after him. And I think that's what makes him so fantastic. No pun intended. But yeah, like I said, it's an absolutely fantastic combination to the Ninth Doctor. The regeneration is so perfectly done. It's really kind of sad to see, you know, Ninth Doctor gone. He was one of my favourites. He was still always, I think he's my, fourth favourite Doctor of this new era. He's certainly left an impact, and obviously more recently, he's come back in the form of the Big Finish audio stories, the Ninth Doctor Adventures, starring him, and I want to listen to that, and it's one of the only times where I ever actually want to watch or listen to a Big Finish story, because having 9 back is going to be, well, pun the pun, absolutely fantastic. But yeah, like I said, it's a nice way to end off the series until at least the Christmas episode, but then that's obviously Tennant, so this is sort of Gus Eccleston's bow, and it's really funny to think that he never did a Christmas special. Out of all the modern Doctors, he's the only one who never did a 4th Christmas special, because by the end of his series he'd already regenerated. Usually most Doctors regenerate in their last Christmas special, and that's usually how it goes and sort of stuff. And obviously now it's New Year specials, but you know what I mean. Most Doctors regenerate by that point, so it's kind of interesting to see that sort of thing happen, you know, him regenerate before the Christmas special. And the Christmas special we're going to get to next, so the next bit you'll hear after I finish this one will be me talking about the Christmas special and the conclusion of this series, and what's gonna you know, what's next going forward for this series and stuff. And this video is already an hour long, so if you're this far in, you do be a real one. Like I said, if you scanned through the timeline, fuck you, but if you actually sat through this entire video, you are a real one, and you're the people who I appreciate the most on this channel, sitting through my entire videos. And there's not many people who do it, and if you do, you're a real one. And you know, this has been a passion project. It's not something that I've sat down and said, oh, I have to do it because everyone wants to see it. It's a passion project that I've been wanting to do, I've loved being able to talk about all these TV shows and stuff here, but I will get to that. I should probably stop talking about that. All of this stuff I have to talk about, that is for the next thing at the end of the next one, so I'll talk about that then. But again, like I said, it's a fantastic climax. There is climaxes that are definitely better than you know what, that sounded really wrong, I'm so sorry. I mean, there are series finales that end better than this one, or are more enjoyable than this one. I'm looking at I think it's the series 4 finale, where basically every 10th Doctor companion ever is in the TARDIS at once, and that is an absolutely fantastic finale. But in terms of for the 9th Doctor as a character, where it leaves him at the end of here, I think it's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, that's my review of the Parting of the Ways, the finale for the 9th Doctor. Coming up at you right about now is my review of the episode 14 of the first series, and the first Christmas special for Doctor Who of the revival, the Christmas Invasion. So that's coming right at you right about now. Right, hello, welcome to my review of the first Christmas special of the new series, of the first series even, and the first episode for David Tennant as a Doctor, the Christmas Invasion, episode 14 of series 1. Now, the Christmas Invasion is an interesting one because it gives the dynamic of what if the Doctor wasn't there when Rose was in an event that needed, you know, caused the world, almost a world-ending event. What if the Doctor wasn't there? And I think, as a first impression for David Tennant, you only really get that in the last half an hour, 20 minutes of the episode. But most of it is him just in bed, so I suppose it's hard to get a first impression of that. But I think it definitely left some sort of impression on a lot of people. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been, you know, the Doctor that he was, the long-running Doctor he was. I mean, when you look at it, a lot of people seem to think he was the longest-running Doctor of the New Who, when actually he's not. He's basically on par with everyone else, because he did series 2, 3 and 4. Matt Smith did 5, 6 and 7, and Peter Capaldi did 8, 9 and 10. So while everyone thinks he's the longest running one, he's actually technically it's actually evened out with everyone except for Eccleston, who obviously only did 1. But obviously it's essentially evened out over time, which is fun. But like I said, it's an interesting introduction to him. It's good to see Jackie back. We haven't seen her in an episode since, a while, I suppose. If not the last episode or so, I can't remember. But yeah, it's a fantastic introduction to David Tennant as the new Doctor. I think he gives a fantastic job for what he does towards the end. I do love the bit where he goes, and it will be fantastic. I love that. And I think another funny meme bit where the Sycorax guy goes, I demand to know who you are, and he goes, I don't know. It's really again, I think he's very much a funny Doctor. And I think that's cool, and I like to see him discovering who he is essentially quite quickly on. And obviously Tennant is a very skilled actor as well, much as everyone who's portrayed the Doctor has been very skilled. And I think they all put their own special twist on it using their acting skills, and it's great to see Harriet Jones again. She's a funny, hilarious character, but here she's more down to earth. Yeah, it's good to see Harriet Jones again. It's good to set up this whole idea of what if the Doctor needed help. The blood control subplot is a bit boring here and there, but like I said, I think the only thing that really lets this episode down per se is that it is a bit. What's the word? What's the word I'm looking for here? It's just a bit slow because Tennant doesn't appear until the last half an hour or so, but I think it does have its own 2 feet in the Sycorax. The Sycorax are quite a boring villain in my opinion, but other than that, I think, it leads itself to a nice jumping off point, a starting point for David Tennant. Now, I do know that, before going into Series 2, looking back at the episodes, the episode list, we've got, it is by far the best series. I think it is probably, there's a 2-episode stint, episodes 10 and 11 of Series 2 that really are the lowest point for New Who, if you ask me personally, for a long time. And episode 2 is a bit of a stinky Series 2 is a bit of a it's a very odd one for me. It's definitely not as good as Series 1, but it does have some really high moments. I think Rise of the Cybermen and the Age of Steel was brilliant, and then the Army Ghost Doomsday is fantastic, and so is One Way Bride. But I think everyone else is on School Reunion, but everything else is just a bit it's not really me. I think Tennant really finds his feet by Series 3, and I think Series 3 has a lot more positives to it than Series 2 did. But this is about that first episode, and I think he does leave an interesting impression. It's good to see with Mickey and stuff. I think, is it somewhat in Series 2 where Mickey joins them all? I think it's like after like Tooth and Claw, I think Mickey joins them, so the precursor to Mickey joining them all, which is fun. But yeah, like I said, it's a fantastic episode that I very much enjoy. It's never been my favourite though, and it never will be. I think it's a decent special, and I think it does its job of introducing the new Doctor in a very interesting and unusual way. But yeah, that's my review of Kristen's Invasion. Now, so now I'm just gonna, conclusion, a wrap up of this series is at the end, and just my little talk that I've been doing for most of the other episodes, but I should do it now. Just to start off again, if you're still here at this point in the video, you are a real one. You are a real one, and I appreciate you so much for being here, sitting through this entire video. And I do, I do appreciate it, because not only do you have to listen to my voice, you have to see the same 45 second clip over and over again, because there's no proper trailer, so the same 50 second clip over and over again. So I'm pretty sure you're if you are still here at this point in the video, you are absolutely mindfucked of that video and don't ever want to see it again. But I can only apologise for that, but it's the only Series 1 trailer there is out there, so I have to do. As a recap for Series 1 and just general talking, I think Rose is a good starting point, but it's not the best. The End of the World is enjoyable in places, but it doesn't quite have the flow that the rest have. The Unquiet Dead is a very interesting story. I like how it takes place almost in one place with a small set of characters, which is enjoyable. The Aliens of London and World War III is a solid two-parter with an interesting villain, and I think that adds the dynamic to there. Dalek is definitely the highlight of the whole series. It's a fantastic episode. It's great introduction to the Daleks of only being one, and I think Eccleston's performance in that episode is far and beyond any other performance he's done in any other episode. I love that episode so much. The Long Game is a fun story with an interesting conclusion and continuation in a later episode in the series, and I think it it's nice to see Simon Pegg in Doctor Who. That's kind of fun. But yeah, Father's Day is another one of my favourites. I love the music in Father's Day, and I love some of the scenes. Quite emotional. It's a very emotional episode, and I think it's fun. The Empty Child and the Doctor Dances is another fantastic two-parter, and of course you cannot talk about the episode without talking about it brought us who is quite possibly one of the best side characters in all of New Who, Captain Jack Harkness. Boomtown is an interesting side story with the Slovene again, which is fun, and then Bad Wolf and the Parting of the Ways is an interesting conclusion to Christopher Eccleston as the Ninth Doctor, and an overall ending to the series. And the Christmas Invasion is a nice introduction to the 10th Doctor. Now, my personal favourite episode of Series 1 is Dalek, and I think there is not a bad one in Series 1, there's just the weakest one, and I think I'm probably going to have to give that to the end of no, probably to Rose, only because it's just a starting off point, and it's not as, not entertaining, but it just doesn't have the flow quite yet the others do. So yeah, best Dalek, weakest Rose, there you go. Definitely in Series 2 there'll be a worst episode, but there is no worst episode in Series 1 if you ask me. Just the weakest. So yeah, that's been my conclusion of Series 1. I'm so happy with how this come out. There are some of the reviews that I feel like I've just blabbered on and not said the right things, but I've tried my best. I'm just so happy that I've had the ability and able to actually sit down and do this stuff, and I can't wait to show it. I mean, this video is going to be way over an hour long, so it shows that this whole series is going to be really, really long, and I really hope that everyone has the patience to deal with, you know, the uncanny and unusual. I usually have a schedule for these things, but because this one is so big, I don't have a schedule for when it going up. Obviously, it's going to go up in about half an hour or so once I finish recording this, but I appreciate anyone who's still here in the video. If there's any video on my channel you need to give a like or subscribe or share anywhere, it's this one and the future Doctor Who ones, because I put so much effort into these ones that I don't want it to go to waste. If it does go to waste, then so be it, but it'd be nice if you know, you share it with your friends and stuff, and please just do what you can with it. If you don't want to, that's fine. If you don't like it, hit that dislike button, but I'd appreciate as much sharing and that was possible, because I put, you know, as much as I possibly can into telling you and everyone my thoughts and feelings of the greatest TV show on earth, in my opinion, and I'm so happy that I've, you know, able to do it and that. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. This has been one of the longest videos on my channel, and this has been my review of Doctor Who Series 1, and I can't wait to start the next series review. Soon will be going up as soon as I get that done. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Please do support the video, hit that massive subscribe button, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.